Well, everyone, I'd like to introduce you to a brand brother of mine, Gair Maxwell, as part of the Smile with Sandbox series. Gair, tell us a bit about yourself, your business, and where you guys were coming to the end of, say, 2019.
Well, Rod, thanks so much for the invite to be here with you. And basically, we've been crisscrossing North America, exploring the origin of legends, what makes them enduringly irresistible, and how that magnetic appeal can be applied to anyone's marketing and brand strategy. And 2019 ended, and we were all on this big high because of the way the business was going, and a new book is coming out, and then boom. As we all know, the pandemic forced us into a new reality, but also one that I think is filled with opportunity. And I know for us specifically and the clients we're working with, we see a huge opportunity right now in terms of this is the time to be working on your business, but also there's never been a better time in the history of commerce to be building your brand in the online world, because basically it's the only world we got.
Tell us what does your typical week look like, Gair, heading into this, and what changes, what did you get hit in the face with probably in around that March period? Tell us what that looked like for you and the challenges that you faced.
That's a great question, Rod. Like a lot of people, it's first of all, it's the initial shock. No one will ever forget where they were on the day when suddenly the pandemic became reality. For me, COVID hit me. I was in Charlotte, North Carolina, and when the NBA pulled the plug on their season, I thought, that's it. That's the domino that's going to unleash the rest of them. So after a few days, I started to recognize that there were historical roots in what was happening. And I kind of also recognized, Rod, that from where I sit, that the whole shift, so up until, to answer your question, up until the second week of March in Charlotte, North Carolina, I've been doing a lot of traveling, 80, 90 engagements a year. And suddenly we started asking, how do you pandemic proof a business, whether it's ours or anyone else's? And that question, we had heard before, how do you recession proof your business? Well, no, wait a second. How do you pandemic proof your business? Totally different question. And so we arrived at two words: digital fluency. Digital fluency in three areas: delivery in terms of your product services, operations in terms of your internal systems and how you're able to scale and move with efficiency and speed. And three, marketing. How digitally fluent are you with marketing? And specifically on the marketing side, we see there's a tremendous wide open opportunity if you can tell stories, particularly on video in the online world, because as much as things are changing through the pandemic and have changed, we're more interested in things that will never, ever, ever change. And one of the things we're convinced that will never change, people will always be fascinated by legends and always be fascinated by stories that allow us to actually connect as human beings, no matter what technology platforms that we're communicating on.
Tell me, that makes a lot of sense, Gair. You, for a person who really has set their business model up in some regard to be traveling and in front of groups of people as a speaker, a professional speaker, a highly regarded speaker, did you have a point where you went, oh my God, like, what am I going to do here? What does my deliverable look like? What does my life look like? Tell us a little bit in those few days there as you were resetting. What did you go through?
I honestly, I don't know that I ever had that. I know others have experienced that moment where it felt like the world was falling in. I didn't, to be honest. And And to some degree, it's because we had already been very, very active creating original video content in the online world, which dates back to July of 2015. We made the plunge and we've never looked back. And we always saw that your ability to communicate via video in the online platforms like Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, was really going to, shall we say, set the bar for where any brand building of any significance was going to happen. So we already had some traction, but also some familiarity with some of these platforms. And so when it happened, it was, I think for us, it was a very quick pivot. Okay, we're going to deliver. Only now, instead of delivering our core products in person, we're going to deliver them on Zoom with screens and different things like we have behind us here, so that if we are going to do a program called Smile with Sandbox, we're all set to go as best we can from a technology point of view, so that the messages and that the ideas, we're in the idea business, Rod, deep down, we're in the idea business. And can ideas be shared virtually as well as in person? And we have found so far the answer to be yes, although we do look forward to being back in person someday.
Gary, you had shared with me that you do a multiple organization virtual, like a workshop in a really tight period of time, and you're really like looking for that idea on the fly. Can you tell us a bit of a story of how that looks to you, what you actually do there, so that people viewing this could get an idea of what can happen in a very short period of time and working with a marketing professional like yourself?
Yeah, absolutely, Rod. It's very timely you ask, because we've just wrapped up with 2 different engagements with 2 different client companies, one out of Ohio, one out of Wisconsin. What we used to do on site in terms of a full day discovery, we've chunked it down into 3 different Zoom sessions spread out of over about a 12 to 14 day period to avoid Zoom fatigue. The central question we're trying to ask and answer is, well, who are you beyond your products and services? So whether you're in financial services, whether you're an architectural engineering firm, we get it. You're very good at what you do, but who are you beyond that? What is your brand identity and story that we can use as basically a springboard to more storytelling in the future? Great example. We worked with some engineers out of Cincinnati. Anyone watching could look them up on their YouTube channel, the Klingers Group. Well, what makes that engineering firm different from all the other engineering firms? And one of the things we discovered, they've got this unique personality, kind of quirky. The CEO has a favorite 4-letter word, Rod. It's called beer. And he's that friendly neighbor guy. In their new building, they've got their own pub. It's called Sharky's North Park Tavern. They became Klingers Group. Good at math, surprisingly human. Good at math, surprisingly human is their equivalent to Nike's Just Do It. So in the same manner as Nike, telling story after story after story since 1988, always anchored by the Just Do It, Klingers Group is now able to tell story after story after story on video, anchored by good at math, surprisingly human. It gives purpose, direction, consistency, longevity, and in a nutshell, that's what we're doing virtually. People I know are fascinated and struggle sometimes actually with the Simon Sinek. Start with why. Why do we do what we do? People, what's our why? People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. But beyond the why, they also want to know, who are you beyond the products and services, and can I trust you? And that's the fundamental question we're answering, only now we're doing it, very differently, just like you and I are today.
Awesome. As a final question, Gair, tell me, is there anything that you haven't yet maybe shared with us, but how is your company better today than prior the pandemic?
I love the question, Rod, because it speaks to if we're talking about digital fluency, suddenly we're getting much more agile and robust about digitizing our delivery systems, but also our internal operations. There's a lot of things you just can't, wing it and ad lib and improv anymore, because there's so many moving parts and so many people sometimes joining remotely. You've got to have everything flowing. So systematically, we're seeing every single week, Dane and I are advancing the ball, and okay, that every little hiccup, every little glitch, it's like, now, okay, how are we going to systemize that? So one of the things someone said early on, and I think it's true, 1 week of change in COVID is equal to 3 months of change pre-pandemic. So whatever a business did that took them 3 months to get through before the pandemic, now you can do it in a week, because you're moving that much faster with much more intention.
Great. Thank you, Gair. Thank you for sharing that story. And thank you for your time today.
Well, it's always a pleasure to hook up with my good friend Rod Anderson, and hopefully bring a smile to all those that you touch in the Sandbox world.